world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. Okay, I love watching social media, especially hunting related content, and one caught my eye the other day. And so I just had to reach out because I've been following your stuff for a while, but this in particular, this video just was like, oh, how cool. There must be a backstory. So I've got Craig from Salty Hunters on Insta. Mate, how are you? Thanks for coming on, and I can't wait to hear what happened.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, it was a standout for the trip, that one, for sure.
All right. So for anyone that might not know what I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure I did share it on the socials anyway. Essentially, you've got this really cool little clip of a pig charging you, and it looks like you're on a motorbike. And
yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then you obviously, sending it where it should go. And it was just, it was a great little bit of footage. And I sort of went there and go, was that unprovoked? Was it something that you'd shot at first? How did that all come about? And were you planned and ready, or was it just spur of the moment?
No. So the other guy to Salty Hunters, one of my best mates, Dave, we was just cruising along on our motorbikes. We sort of just ride along through the thickets early morning, try and catch the pigs out in the open. And I was in front and I'd come across like a smaller boar, probably about 30, 40 kilo. And I said, we've got radio. So I sort of mic'd to Dave, hey, there's a pig in front. And I'd stopped and shot that with a shotgun. And then in the distance, I could see you see the silhouette of pigs in the background. It would have been about 500-600 meters ahead of us. And I've gone, Dave, keep going. There's pigs in front of us. And so as I just made sure that the pig that I'd shot was dead, David kept going. And I was just tricking along in the background thinking, how great's this? Like, I'll watch him chase this pig up. And then all of a sudden, Dave stacked his bike. And I was like, oh, shit. All right, this thing's getting away from us now. And is Dave all right, or should I chase the pig? And so I boot up to Dave because I was about 300 meters behind him and sort of going, hey, mate. And he's yelling at me, just keep going, keep going. And so I've sort of gone, all right, he's all right then. And I've gone through this creek, back up. And by this point, this pig's got a bit of momentum. And I've just tried to caress and put myself between him and the hills that he was sort of headed to. And he stopped and I've gone, oh, beauty. And I've sort of just, without thinking, thought, oh, well, he's standing there. I'll just give him a couple of barrels with a shotgun and it'll be all over. And I've sort of slowly taken my shotgun off. And next thing you know, I hear the grinding, like when they grind their tusk. And I looked up and he's running at me and I've gone, shit. And I'd turned my bike off. So it's not like I could just put it into gear and drive off because I'd taken the gun off. And he just sort of shut down 25 meters so quickly. And I put one shot of SGs into him and he sort of shook it off. And then my heart was pounding. And I'm lucky I had that push button because I pressed the button and I put a solid slug in and I hit him just at my feet as I was dropping the bike to sort of start running.
It was cool to watch. I know that the heart would have been beating, that's for sure.
I reckon I took about a minute after it to sort of just stop shaking to just go, is he dead? Yeah, oh, shit. All right, what's going on? That was too close for comfort. So
Well, look, mate, I'm glad you're all good because I've spoken on the podcast to a few people before, and like if we cast back when I had Murph on, his missus copped a tuss to the leg,
Yeah,
so
I
you
heard
don't
that
want to
one.
be doing that, and particularly where
No.
you are pig hunting, it looked pretty remote. I'm guessing a private property somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, well, fair few hours drive from the nearest town, so yeah, pretty
Yeah.
remote.
Not what you want to sort of injure yourself at. So that's for
Correct.
sure.
Yeah.
Motorbikes, interesting. Most people, when you talk about getting around a property, buggies, quads, motorbikes, that different element. It's something that I used to do a lot of motorbike riding. I had a pretty nice little KTM motard that I love getting around on with that long range fuel tank. Why is the motorbike your go-to? Is it just because it's easy to go across distance? Is it, one thing for me is where do you put the firearm compared to a quad? Quad, you can put the nice rest at the front. How are you running? What's your setup?
So we pick the bikes because we find they're more nimble, especially when you hit those creeks, the creek beds, and when you get through the thick pine or the mallee or whatever, you can still sort of push through with the bikes and keep up with the pigs. And it's taken a fair amount of years for us to sort of critique it. Each trip we sort of build on and go, all right, well, next trip we'll do this, this and this. And we've got it down where I run the shotgun and Dave will run the Remington Pump 308. So we get the best of both worlds. Depending on we're in the thick shrub, I'll generally get a few shots off with a shotgun, push them out. And then when they're out in the open, Dave uses a 308 with that longer range. So we just find, especially during that daytime when the pigs get in that thick stuff, and most people or there's a bit of downtime as such, we can get in that thick stuff with the bikes and push them out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously the noise of the bikes is going to send them flying. How do you hold the shotty on there while you're moving?
So I've got just a sling and I've put the sling across my chest and the shotgun basically on the back and sort of ride through that way.
Yeah. It is a handy way. Motorbikes, obviously, as you said, a bit more nimble, can go a bit faster, can absorb a bit more of that shock, less chance of rolling over, all those sort of things that come along with that too. So you've got sort of hand in hand. I've been tossing up. I was chatting to a mate about it the other day. Is obviously state forests, and well, mind you, but we were talking about this before petrol prices at the moment, but now with petrol prices, motorbikes look bloody good. I will say that. And we're talking about just getting around a state forest, and there's some pretty ordinary tracks out in some of the state forests, especially where you want to get to. So, if you're trying to get away from other hunters, which most of us do on public land. So we're talking about how could we set up the bike, because obviously I'm not sure where you're from, but from New South Wales State Forest, you can't travel with a firearm slung around you, obviously. So I was trying to work out this way you could have attached to the bike a rifle case with the rifle in there that's locked. So if the bike's road registered, you're able to transverse and go across. You can move around the state forest any way you sort of please. I'm still working on it, and if anyone's listening and they've done this and they've got a good idea, I'm all ears, and I'd love to have a chat to you about it. But there's something I've been toying with the idea because I don't know, just sort of it makes it easy, I think.
We've been looking at similar ideas too, especially if you go out to the dams at night time. You're not just taking your shotgun, you're taking your rifle with an expensive scope or whatever, and you don't want that just slung on your back, and then you get all the orange dust and everything that goes with it that you don't want in your gun when you're riding around on bikes. We were looking at those, I think it's Kipler's the brand, with the big plastic cases, and we're looking at trying to mount one of them onto the front forks where your gun can just slip in. They're made to hold guns, and then maybe you could put a padlock or something on that, but that's still a work in progress for us. But that's the plan for next trip.
Yeah, I was looking at something similar. I was thinking more a hard, the hard rifle case, the sort of rectangular ones, and bolting it maybe to the back upright. So it going straight up off the, somehow working how you could put it on the back wheel somewhere and just have it bolted to the chassis somewhere so it is upright. And then again, you can, whether it padlock or whatnot, but being able to have that so it's not going to affect the bike and get in your way too much Yeah, it's an interesting one. I see a lot of merit, and having ridden bikes a lot, knowing that where you can get and what you can do and how quickly, I think it would be well worth it. And then getting into some really good spots that it would take a long time to potentially get with a
100%.
car. Yeah. And I haven't seen too many people on bikes in the state forest, and I'm guessing it's the transport of the firearm that is the big issue. So trying to get around that.
Yeah. No, we're lucky. We're private property, so we haven't had to encumber that sort of issue yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's the benefit of private. You can do sort of what you want. So that's not an issue. But it's this one, I think. So how do you go in the night on the bikes? Because, they're not, I tend to find even buggies are not the brightest unless you've got some spotties on it, especially no tracks and things like that.
We don't really ride at night. So basically the way we do is we get up 15 minutes before sunrise, get out to the areas where we need to be, and then we do the early mornings, come back, have brekkie, go out and do a day hunt. And then we sort of have dinner at about 4:00, load the bikes up with the stuff that we need, like the tripods and everything like that. And then we're just on the dam or areas where we think pigs are coming through, and we just sit there for a few hours into the darkness and then pack up and come home. So we don't really drive around at night time.
Okay.
And then it's sort of we're back by 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Any other close pig calls? Because it seems watching your content, you do obviously chase a bit of everything, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it does seem you predominantly do like chasing the pigs.
We do like the pigs. Yeah. There has been a few close calls with the pigs. It's not the first time. I've had a couple of times. There's a couple of videos I've got where the smaller pigs I've sort of stopped to shoot. And I suppose that's a downfall to the bike, is you've got to clutch in, front brake, back brake, come to a stop, take the gun off and then shoot. So that opposed to a quad, whereas I think a lot of people on the quads are just rolling as they're shooting. There's a 5-second delay. And that I've had a couple of times where pigs have actually ran in that delay between the fork and the engine block on my bike. And I've had to sort of lift my knees up and then kept going. I've had to chase after them after they'd come through that way. So yeah, it's a surprising how quick they can turn and come at you.
Oh, look, the video shows how quickly they can close the distance when they want to.
Yeah. And it's catch-22 with a shotgun, because you've got to be close to to shoot them efficiently.
Yeah. And that's right. The further out they are, it's, that pattern of your shotgun could be quite dispersed, and you're not going to hit it or do enough of it to do much damage. And it keeps coming at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But look, it does look extremely fun, and watching you, get into the mobs and chasing them, and you've got some pretty handy little pigs there, which has been good.
Yeah, no, it's good fun. We enjoy it. And we probably would never change. Like, as long as we've got our bikes and they're working, we continue to hunt that way. We love it that way. And it's a bit of a rushing through the bushes, trying to push pigs out and then chase them down. So
yeah, no, look, I get it. I think, again, I always talk, it's something I probably haven't spoken about on the podcast, but talking about, the hiking, the camping, everything that sort of encompasses hunting. And it's only been sort of lately that I've been sort of talking to mates and talking about the motorbikes, because that's, it's sort of a separate hobby that is so much fun as well. And being able to do that in with the hunting, I haven't thought about that much until sort of watching your stuff. I've always just sort of lent towards quad bikes or a buggy or whatnot, if you're chasing them out on private property. So I do see the allure, though, of mixing it all, because, I mean, that's one of the best things about hunting, doing all the things together, combining all these different hobbies into one. It doesn't get much better than that.
Oh, 100%. It's the best of both worlds. And it challenges you on the bike, especially in that mallee and that thick stuff, and you get those rocky hills that you've got to go up and over. Like, it challenges your skill set on the bikes. And as I said before, like, Dave's chasing a pig and we're out in the open and he stacked the bike. Like, you've just got to be careful as well. But you get a few laughs out of it.
Oh, look, I mean, even not chasing pigs, you come off the bike. I've come off plenty of times. Nothing super bad. Actually, shout out to me mate Woody. He just talking about bikes and accidents. So one of my good mates, he mad keen bike rider. He was away for a weekend and they were doing tracks at a property that was set up for it, obviously. He jumped on his mate's bike, which was a bit bigger, a bit different and whatnot. So he was giving it some and going around. And he put his foot down to come into a corner and his foot has just jammed into the ground and it's pushed his tibia up inside his femur.
Yeah.
And just decimated the basically his kneecap and the base of his femur. And it sort of just, it entered it and sort of just broke into just a heap of different pieces all over the joint. And it's taken him a bit to get back. It was a good probably year, a lot of surgeries to sort of put it back together and whatnot. And he's back to sort of good now and normal, which I think he's very, very lucky that happened. But
100%. Yeah.
It's funny. You can just do something that you've been doing so often and it's just like second nature, and a slight change can just throw the whole thing and cause you serious injury.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes complacency too. Like there's been a couple of times where I've been on the bike and I've gone, well, that was a bit silly. You need to switch on when you're riding them because they are powerful things. But yeah, accidents can happen so quickly on them. You just got to be careful.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
Yeah, I mean, everything has inherent risk to it, doesn't it? So it's about weighing up that option and trying to make things as probably practical and safe as possible. But there is always going to be that element of danger, no matter what you do. And it was funny because went away in the caravan the other week and we're just went to Goulburn and we're just walking down one of the pathways and probably about 1.5 meters from me was probably one of the biggest brown snakes I've seen in a damn long time.
Yeah,
and
right.
the kids were all on their little bikes and whatnot just behind me. So I just sort of sat there and told him to stop and was looking at this thing and I was just like, Jesus Christ, the head on it. He was cool. He just sort of turned and moved off into the thick. But I was sort of sitting there going, just a simple walk. I wasn't out hunting, wasn't tramping through the bush, I should say, but just it was out in the open, near nice little spot near the river, just on a pathway. If you're not looking for things like that, and I sort of was because I was looking there going, this is a pretty good snake spot. And lo and behold, there was one. But if you're not looking for that and you're just doing your thing, like that could end very seriously. And it's something that you're not sort of planning on or some people might not even be aware.
Yeah, 100%. I think sometimes too, you can't wrap yourself up in bubble wrap and like there's a risk at everything, like you say, and sometimes you just got to send it and hope that it comes out.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm probably with the kids and that in the family, I'm probably more on the put the safeguards in place now. So, when I was younger, I probably would have grabbed that brown snake. But nowadays, I'm just like, all right, is there a need to do that? If I'm going through the bush, chuck some gaiters on, just those little things. I think if you do those little things, you can make it just that little element safer. And then, as you said, just get into it. And if something's going to happen, something's going to happen. But
that's right.
If you can try and minimize the danger as best possible, that's a win, right? And we talk about that all the time. Talking about firearm safety and things like that, I'm a big one for not having a round in the chamber when I'm out hunting with mates or anything like that until I'm ready to fire. I know there's a lot of people out there that swear by it and they swear by their safeties and all that, but we unfortunately hear it all the time of something going wrong and someone getting shot by their mate on a hunting trip. I think there's been a couple, 2 this year already, and we're only at the end of March. It does happen, and you got to live with that for the rest of your life. So some of those risks, I think you just don't need to take. And that's my personal standpoint. And that's how I sort of approach it.
No, I couldn't agree more. Like even us, we're on private property. We're the only ones there. We know we're the only ones on the property, but we'll still wear high vis. Like we won't go out unless we're wearing high vis. And generally we know we're riding next to each other, but it just takes that element of risk out that I know where he is. He's clearly seen, or vice versa, because we've got high vis on. and it's a $10 high vis work shirt. Really, small price.
Exactly. And the other thing is you've got to trust whoever you're out with. And you've got to have, like I always find, there's got to be that negotiated set of rules or communication so that you're both on the same page. You know the other person's not just going to swing that barrel around and, chasing a pig and you're in the firing line or whatever it might be. And that's just, I think it's something that we all should be mindful of because, you can't, if once that bullet's sent, you can't get it back.
Can't get it back. No.
It's gone and it's going through whatever. And I'm obviously very big on firearm safety and only point at something you want to shoot. But accidents do happen, but everything possible. Because I can't even imagine these blokes that shot their mate. Or, I think there was one last year where a kid was shot. And I just sort of sit there and go, how do you feel for the rest of your life knowing it was your fault and something so stupid like having a round in the chamber that if you didn't do that, that person would still be alive? Like it's an accident, but it's all like it's almost like a complicit accident, if that makes sense. And
really, what's the time frame difference between cycling a bolt and putting one in the chamber? Half a second, a second. Yeah. That's really all you're losing, and you've eliminated that whole risk.
Yes, yeah, and I think a lot of them are always on the back of utes, or they're on something where they're swinging around, or I think a couple they hit a bump and fell off, and obviously he's shot or the gun's gone off, whether it be he had the finger on the trigger, whatever it might be, and you're sort of sitting there going, it's just not worth it. Like as you said, how quickly can you put a round in and get that shot off for that split second? I know the argument from deer hunters is that noise could set the deer off or spook it. I get that. But then I also sit there and go, is that deer worth an accident and shooting someone? I don't know. For me, it's definitely not. I'm very big on I'd rather miss a deer than shoot anyone, even a stranger, and have to live with that for the rest of my life for something simple as cycling a bolt, which may or may not spook a deer. Like I don't know. That's how I sort of see it from my perspective.
Yeah, it's simple risk management, really.
Yeah, 100%. Listeners can't see the background. You've got a couple of nice ducks taxied up on the wall there and a pig. I've seen the duck videos. Which one? I mean, obviously you love shooting with a shotgun, and who doesn't? They're great bits of gear and great fun. Ducks, pigs? You still leaning towards pigs?
Pigs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think I love pigs, but I'm from Melbourne. And I've got 3 kids, and it's a mission to get approval from my wife. I'm very lucky that she does let me go away for weeks at a time pig hunting. And I do love my hunting. Like that's my passion. So if I'm not pig hunting or I can't prioritize that pig hunting window to go away, then I'll look at the ducks, the deer, and the fishing for a quick spell.
All right. So, well, what is it about pigs? Because I've got a couple of mates that are like similar that they, Frodo, last year's Croak Camp, shot a cracking buck, first ever one in the state forest. It was a big, decent buck. I reckon if you put on a string, come and shoot a couple of big mountain boars versus that, he'd be into the pigs any day of the week. What is it about them that you love chasing?
I think it's just non-stop action with pigs. Like I said earlier, we're on the bikes, we're cruising around, we're sort of scratching that itch with using our motorbikes, and then you come across a mob of 30 pigs, it is action and non-stop action for as long as you can keep up with them, as opposed to your deer hunting. Like I love the element of deer hunting, but you have your highs and your lows with deer hunting, if that makes sense. Like it's a lot of hard work and a huge reward at the end. You get a huge yield of meat off an animal, but I love the action of just chasing pigs.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's one thing I've sort of spoken about, probably why I could definitely probably be a better deer hunter because I'm not that patient. I'll sit there for sort of 30, 40 minutes and then I just get, want to get up and go exploring and stalk. So hearing what you're saying about the pigs, of that non-stop action, chasing them, seeing them, nail a couple, catch back up, nail a couple, catch back up. Like you're prolonging the enjoyment of the hunt as opposed to, potentially not seeing a deer, which happens to a lot of people going out and chasing them regularly. So I get that element of it. how did you get into it? Like I always find it very interesting hearing people's stories because pigs especially, I sort of like I get the excitement, but I don't know, maybe you're eating the meat, but like most people won't, sort of thing. That seems to be the consensus. How did you get into the pigs and sort of work out that was for you?
I grew up hunting, so from as long as I remember, I've still got my Bruno 22 that my dad gave me when I was 5 or 6, and he'd take me down the rifle range. And back then, he'd give me a block of 500 and sort of say, "You deal with that, and I'll do my thing, and I'll see if you're going through them at the end of the day," sort of thing. So I've always been around hunting, and we sort of grew up rabbit and fox hunting, and I used to love walking the hills and sort of progressed up the caliber of rifles doing that. And then Dad said, when I was about 14, I'm going pig hunting with a couple of friends. Do you want to come along? And I went when I was about 14, and the whole element of even like it's a 9-hour drive for us, and the change of scenery, like that drive alone, I love going to the outback in New South Wales. It's a completely different world from where I'm from, and just that alone sort of captured me, I guess. And then throw in the mix of chasing pigs, and I was hooked from there. So, and then I've tried to just maintain the regular hunts on a sort of quarterly or half yearly basis to just get up and hunt pigs. And yeah, once I shot my first pig, that was it. I was like, this is me. This is what I enjoy doing. So sort of evolved from that rabbit fox hunting and going to that sort of next level up.
Well, mate, geez, the New South Wales outback is a long way from Vic. How long does that trip take you?
So it's about 11-hour trip from door to door for us. So
it's actually not that bad because I know from where I am to get out to sort of Burke and Nyngan and Cobar is probably looking at around the same sort of, probably about 9 hours, I reckon.
Yeah.
So it's not that much further and you're in a different state.
No, so I'm Mornington Peninsula, so southeast suburbs of Melbourne. We leave at about 12 o'clock, so I can get up through the morning with the kids on a Sunday, and we'll be up at the property that we go hunting on by midnight. And then we do a quick unpack, roll the swags out, and we're ready to go on the Monday morning. So it works out quite well that way.
Long drive. I'd be thinking that you want to spend quite a few days there. Is it like a week-long trip? Is that how you go about it?
Yeah, so it's basically Sunday is the drive, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning we shoot, and then Friday sort of mid-morning we start to head back home.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good one, especially when you got the kids. I try and do the same. Been a school teacher, very lucky in that sense. I get a lot of holidays, and that weekday period's great because I always feel a little guilty if I go away weekends and leave the wife dealing with all the little monsters that I have. And if I can go and hunt during the week and then get back, I miss them too. So it's sort of that nice sort of way to balance it all out.
Yeah, I get the guilt as well, and I know it's a long time. And then sort of when I get home, I try and pay back the favour as much as I can to the missus because I know it puts a lot of stress on her, and I'm really grateful that she lets me go. I said I'm pretty lucky that way. But yeah, I'm normally, all right, I'm home. I'll take the kids, we'll go clean stuff up and just have a rest, and it sort of works out well.
Yeah, it's that balance. And I think a lot of people that don't have kids or families don't sort of understand the impact it can have on your family if you're going away all the time. And I'm very envious of people that live really close to their hunting properties or access. I'd love to be able to have that just to put the kids down and get away. So I'm not feeling like I'm putting all this extra burden on the family, because I don't think anybody wants to do that, to your loved ones. And I always just have that little bit of guilt in the back of my mind, but I love to get out in the bush and hunt. So it's sort of like, I know that I shouldn't feel guilty, but I still sort of do. And then you get the guilt of missing them and especially those longer periods. So it's trying to find that nice balance of what actually works well, that as they say, happy wife, happy life. You say you don't want to be putting too much pressure and annoying the boss either.
Yeah, that's right. And I look at Dave. Dave's a bachelor. He's got his house. He's got his car. He's got his motorbike. And he goes, when do you want to go? And I've got to go, well, I've got to do this, and I've got this appointment and blah, 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 blah. It works here. And it's sort of, sometimes I go, damn you, Dave. Like, I wouldn't change my life for the world, but you look at that aspect and go, that is just so much easier. But I think ultimately, like the mental health side of like, I know that's a big word and people throw it around loosely, but when you come from those family pressures and you're working full time, and my wife works full time too, so like ships in the night and you've got all those appointments, I think she sees the benefits too, that if I go away for a week, I come back and I'm very much a different person before I left because of that mental load. I work in an emergency service job, and sort of the regular pressure and the shift work and everything like that builds up, and the pig hunting and that week away is a huge sort of mental relief, and you come back just a completely different person before you leave. So I think she sees the benefits of that as well, which then benefits the family because I want to be home and I want to be around.
Yeah, completely agree there, because it's that release. And I think, people don't get it sometimes, especially if non-hunters, they don't get that it's fun. And I know people who aren't hunters will sit there and go, how can you see killing something as fun? You're just bloodthirsty and blah, blah, blah. But it's a challenge. It is enjoyable. You are keeping an animal in check. You are getting that break away from the pressures of everyday life and society, and obviously a high pressure job such as yourself. You do need that release. You can't run. I always refer to it when I'm teaching it as, if you get a Coke bottle and you shake it up and you keep shaking, and then what happens when you pop that lid? It's going to go explode, right? You've got to have that release to get that excess gas out. And if you're just building that pressure, eventually it's going to burst, and probably not in a healthy way. Whereas being able to get out and enjoy yourself. And I think that's what it's about. Hunting's more than just pulling the trigger. Yes, that's a fun part, but it's all the experience that happens. I've got Croak Camp coming up in a couple of weeks. I am super excited to hopefully get a nice buck, but I'm also just as excited to get away with a couple of great blokes and spend that time with them, sitting around the campfire at night, talking about what happened in the day, hopefully seeing them get a couple. Like the whole thing about it, that journey, just getting out of technology, switching off from emails from work and all the crap you got to do, and just focusing on the camping, the fun, it makes so much more sense to me.
And it's the build up as well. So it's not actually the week you're away or the time you're away. I love getting on YouTube and watching the other people pig hunting and go, oh, that's a great idea. And for months leading up to it, I'm sort of going, all right, so now I'm going to make my bullets, and now I'm going to pack my clothes, and what's the weather doing? And there's just that 2 months, 6 weeks of building up to this trip where you progressively got something to look forward to as well. So like I'm at work and I'll think, all right, well, I've got a free night tonight. I'll come home and I'll make some bullets and have them ready to go. So it's not so, what I'm trying to say, it's not so much the trip, but it's the purpose of leading up to it as well. It's that journey that sort of helps you as well, I find. It gives you a purpose to sort of come home and go, all right, I'll get the boys in the shed and we're going to pack my clothes, or let's make sure the bike's working, or just those little things that help you. It's more of a distraction from your work life or what's going on in the background. I think it's just a whole big picture of what you said in addition to that lead up as well. That makes sense.
Oh, 100%. And talking about what's going on in the background, if you can, listeners, it is the rain. You've got a storm down there. We had one up here. I will do the best to get rid of the background noise, but just in case it does come through, people are sitting there going, what's going on? That's what. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, talking about just the excitement leading up to it, the planning, the conversations, the prep. What am I going to use? How am I going to use it? What am I going to add different to the camp? All those elements are just, it's tantalizing you to get ready to go. And I am looking at that at the moment. I know tonight, before we jumped on here, I just bought an AJ Productions caller, and Got a new fellow card. Shout out to Mansfield Hunting and Fishing down there. They sent it up. It is cracker because it's got the rattles on it. It's got like a light, and then it's got an aggressive rattle. It's got your buck and your doe and a little one. And I was playing it with my kids and just mucking around with it, just trying to work out what the numbers are to get it in my head because, hopefully I'll get out on the weekend. And that is cool. And just getting the kids involved with that and talking about it's a new piece of gear to play with, changing how I'm doing something different. I'm going to do that different this time instead of using rattles. All those elements to it, it just makes it more exciting. And even my mate who I'm accompanying, hopefully he'll get a buck this weekend. We're strategizing. So I'm going to put the speaker here. I'm going to crawl in, set up this. We'll have your tripod here. I'll be filming it. I'm going to do this. This is my plan. And just that back and forth, the anticipation rises, but it's prolonging the hunt because it's not just that one morning we're going for. We've been talking about it now for 3 weeks because we got out and put the trail cameras out. We're talking, when can we get back there? This is the strategy of where we're going. So it just amps you up and it just prolongs that. And then that one trip is now over a month of sort of entertainment.
Exactly. And another big thing too is the kids. Like I love my boys and my daughter, they come up and they're like, "Oh, Dad, can we ride on the motorbike? Because I've got the motorbike ready." Yep. All right. No worries. And then you pull the duck decoys out because it's duck season. And you're washing them down and they're like, "All right, I'm going to put my camo on." And they run down, put their camo top on and come up. And it's getting them involved as well. They're not on the TV. They're outside. They're doing stuff. And they're sort of getting a grasp and the understanding of that hunting. And it's not all about just shooting, that we're going to go out and we're going to camp and do that sort of stuff as well. So there's so many benefits to it that people don't understand.
It's that sort of culture, isn't it? Getting them off the TV, getting them out and about. I have to laugh. I don't put my kids up on social media, and especially the sort of podcast stuff. And it's a shame in one sense because it was pretty damn cute. We have croaking competitions, who can sound like a fellow buck the best. So I've got all these little awesome videos because they all take it in turns and then we vote who had the best one. And it's just so cool that you're engaging them and getting them interested to the point now, every time I buy a damn funnel, I can never have a funnel at the property for any reason because it becomes one of their croak callers and they just walk around blowing into it and trying to make deer noises. It's bloody hilarious, but it's also like, damn it, I needed that to do the pool acid, or I needed that and then now it's gone. I've got to get another one. But it's cool that they're engaging with something that I love to do and developing some skill sets too. And it's getting them off screens and off TV. And, that for me is a big one. I'm very conscious about screen time and their own development and learning. So it's sort of this perfect little mix that you can take them along with your journey as well. And then you can talk to them about it and their knowledge. So, I took my son away the other day to the property. I'm accompanying my mate to this weekend, and him coming home and talking about, "Oh, Mum, we saw a rub and here's a scrape," and explaining to her what we were looking for and that, a buck's poo's clumped and those just little things. And it's like perfect. Just he was beaming that he learned all this new stuff and seen it and could talk about it, but then portraying it to her too. You could see how engaged he was in something that I love. And it's just a really good cycle. I mean, that's just how I find it. I love teaching. Obviously, it's my job, but seeing my own kids learn is even cool. Better, probably.
It's rewarding. It definitely is. So
taking the kids out pig hunting, would you do it? Are you waiting till they get older? Yeah, okay.
So when I got back from that last trip, my 4-year-old, I said to him, "We've got duck hunting. When it cools down and the snakes go, I'll take you duck hunting." And it's not about the duck hunting. It's about we're just going to go out, light a fire, roll the swag out and just spend the night in the bush sort of thing. And I'll walk around with a shotgun. I probably wouldn't even take a bullet with me, but in his mind, we're hunting sort of thing. And I think that's a gentle way to introduce him into it. But I got back from that trip and he goes, "Dad, I'm coming to hunt wild pigs next time you go." I was like, "Oh, mate, maybe not the wild pigs. Let's just get a little bit older first." But I would think probably that 13, 14, 15, when they hit that mark and they've got an idea and sort of they can hold their own a little bit and they're a bit smarter, that's probably when. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. They might not want to go pig hunting. But at this point, yeah, probably not at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. I see it from all different angles, and well, shout out to Felix. I'll probably get him on here at some stage to tell us, but he got a red with his daughter the other day. They went out and he got a nice red stag. Not the biggest by any stretch that he shot, but nonetheless probably one of the most memorable because his daughter was there with him. And I get that and I see that. And then I don't want to also – I want them to make their own mind up. I don't want to sort of force them to do things because – it's not me as a person. I don't like to force anyone to do anything within reason, obviously. And I sort of see, I want them learning about it. If they choose to do it, fantastic. If they don't, I get it. And I'll, support whatever they do. It's a really tricky one. I've spoken to my wife about it many times because she's not a hunter. She's not adverse to hunting. She doesn't want to be involved in it or see the killing of the animal. But she loves the idea of being, sort of self-sufficient and getting great meat. So it's a bit of this tug of war of which way do you go? And then obviously sort of because she's not into hunting, does it come across to her as I'm trying to brainwash my kids to do what I want to do? It's a very tricky one. You probably don't think like this, a lot of people. They just do, but it's something I'm more mindful of.
I think, though, with kids, if they're exposed, they generally are curious.
Yeah.
And if they have an interest, like, for example, if I'm watching duck decoys or they'll come over and they'll ask questions and they'll ask. And I don't push it in front of them. I'll just go off and do my thing. And then when they come over and ask, then I'll start to explain, this is a duck decoy if we're going to go duck hunting. And, what do they do? Well, they do this and this and this. And if they start to show an interest, well, then I'll run with it. But if they lose interest, I'm not going to or if they don't show any interest, I'm not going to push that way either. So it's sort of, I think too, if you sort of start throwing it at them, and every child's different too, obviously, as you know. Sometimes you can push them away even more than that makes sense. Sort of.
Yeah. I think if you jam it down their throat, sometimes it can do the opposite effect.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's that fine balance, isn't it? It's just trying to educate, pique their curiosity, but not force them. Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting dynamic becoming a parent, and you're always questioning yourself. Is this the right thing to do? Is this the right way to handle it? You're just always reflecting. And I sort of get back to hunting because I do the same when I'm hunting. Am I moving too fast? Am I moving too slow? Am I in the wrong spot? Should I sit here? Is this a good spot to wait? And I sometimes feel I go away hunting and my mind is ticking over so much more, questioning what should I do for hunting, but I do that with my kids anyway.
And then you become your own worst enemy because they go, no, I need to go to that dam. We'll go over here, and you go over there and you don't find anything. And then you go, shit, should I have just stayed where I was?
Yeah. Did I miss a monster?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think that's the beauty about hunting though, isn't it? Like there is so much of it can be just luck. Like, yeah, you get, I see mates that get some great footage of animals on their trail cam and they'll never see them ever again. Or and when I've heard some really cool stories about people chasing something for a year before they catch up and get it. You sort of sit there and go, there is an element of luck involved. You can do all the right things, but if that animal's not coming across your path, or if you're walking down a trail and it's coming across the trail, hell, you could be 5 minutes too early and you don't see the thing.
Yeah.
5 minutes too late, it's already gone. Like there's such a small little window. You can do all the things to try and give yourself the best opportunity, but there is also that little luck element to come in as well.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney+ and Hulu Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
I think that's the exciting part of it because it's out of your control too. You, like you said, you do everything in the book and it might not happen or you hit the jackpot. And that's, I think, one of the exciting parts about hunting. You never know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, look, I agree there because you can just have nothing going on and in a split second, it can just flip. And that is the excitement. That's I think it's like, I sometimes refer to it as being probably an addict. Not that I've ever done drugs or been an addict, but like I sort of feel that's that rush that you can be sitting there waiting for deer, nothing happening. And as soon as you see that deer, you just, so excited. And that's that hit of adrenaline, that spike. And especially then if you get it, if it's a PB, if it's whatever it might be, I get that sort of excitement and that feeling of being just enthralled in what we're doing. And that's the moments that you're chasing.
Yeah, 100%. And with the pig hunting, like you might go 3 hours of riding and not seeing a pig and you sort of hit that low and you're like, shit, maybe we've shot all the pigs or maybe we've scared them all off or whatever. And you're riding around, you just got to go, we'll go try over here. And then when you see that mob get up and you're back on that chase, that's the high for me that you're chasing. And you can't beat that change of emotion.
Yeah. So look, I'd be guessing that when you're flushing them with the bikes, you're probably not running binos or that much. You're not using them that much, would be my guess.
No, I probably would never use binos pig hunting. Okay. We sort of, like, especially during the day, you almost need to ride on top of them to get them up and going. Like, I'd hate to know the countless times that I've ridden past pigs and they just haven't got up. Like, I remember there was one time we'd ridden through this mallee and I stopped near a patch of bush and I'd stopped and started having a chat thinking, we've cleared the area sort of thing. And 5 minutes into a chat, a pig's 10 meters from me and it's got up and started running. Like, for such a big animal, it's amazing how well they can conceal themselves and hide and just play out the waiting game.
Yeah, they it's just
they're pretty smart animals.
Well, I think it's one thing I don't think people understand about hunting is that you are chasing animals, and yes, we can have tech and all these things, but it doesn't mean that we're always getting them, and it doesn't mean that they're easy targets by any stretch of the imagination. And it's something funny. I always sort of hear people go, I've seen it a million times, give the deer a rifle, give the pig a rifle and, make it fair. And it's like, well, I think that's a slightly inaccurate statement because you don't understand their senses and that they are designed to pick up on predators and danger, and they're far more attuned to their natural habitat than we are, even with a rifle or a shotgun. It's a little bit different. I think people don't understand the value in that because I don't think they actually know about the animals that we're hunting.
That's right. Like, without the tech that we've got, the pig numbers would be out of control.
Yeah.
Same with the deer, same with every feral animal that's been introduced. So you can say, give them a fair chance, but if you run around with spears or slingshots, then you're never going to get anything. And the numbers will be way out of control.
Doesn't it give you just a massive appreciation for the blokes before us that were hunters, like where our ancestors, doesn't matter where they came from, who did hunt with a spear, and how damn close they had to get to these animals and be able to take them down with such primitive weapons. Well,
then I look at the next step ahead of that, and you look at the sambar deer, a massive deer in India. The skill sets of a tiger that just get so close to a deer like that and bring it down and hold it down is just phenomenal. So, let alone having a spear and that, like, that's an advantage in itself. And you'd still, my family would starve if I was running around the bush with a spear.
Well, 100% mine would as well. And thank God we're not back in that position. But I was talking about this with a mate and saying about how it's so funny. I don't know if humans are getting, dumber and slower and that because of just the genetics of exactly what you said, is that natural selection of those people who starved and died off, and it was the ones that could hunt, that were fast, that could find, that had that knowledge. And then you talk about animals, the exact same thing happens. The animals, the biggest, the strongest, the smartest, are the ones that survive and are the ones that pass those genetics on. And it's that cycle where humans are probably the only species on the planet at the moment where that's not really occurring, that we just breed like crazy, that we haven't got anything sort of targeting us. And, you know, we put in all these fail safes to, I guess, protect, you know, so that gene pool is probably getting weakened. It's an interesting thought experiment talking about, like, you look at natural selection and how the wonders it's worked for nature versus the human sort of race and where we are at today. And, you know, watching some Instagram things, you just sit there and go, how are you breathe and walk at the same time? It's so confusing, but it's something I always love to sort of ponder and think about.
Yeah. I'm for the tech. Give me the tech, because it makes my life a lot easier and I enjoy it a bit more.
Well, I think there's a place for everything. And this is where, you know, I always see the arguments that, you know, thermal's cheating or this and that. And I've talked about it previously, and it's something that always comes up is that, well, where do you draw the line? Do you go back to spears because that's authentic hunting? Like, you know, everyone's sort of happy to sit in the camp and say, oh, thermal's cheating, but I'm happy to have my $10,000 Swarovski scope. Well, you know, where do you draw the line if that is your actual opinion?
I think the bare bones of it is, though, that all the animals that we're hunting are feral animals, and like pigs or rabbits or foxes. And like my view is, and when we go pig hunting, is we're helping out the farmer. So he wants as many pigs shot as possible. It puts strain on his cattle with feed, competing for feed, the sheep, and the fencing, and everybody knows the impact that it has. That farmer wants us to come in and do a job and get rid of as many pigs as possible. And the way that we achieve that is by having the best tech that we can afford to get that job done.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And that's sort of the argument to it, is that you are there for some to do a job. And I get that element. And then I do understand where people are coming from the other side saying, but hunting should be about fair chase. And I think that's where it gets murky for me. It's that grey area, is that, well, what do you consider fair chase? Because, you know, if you're a bow hunter, you're saying using a gun's cheating. If you're someone that's, you know, using a scope and a rifle, they're saying a thermal's cheating. And like you sort of get in this back and forth between everyone of what is fair, what is cheating, what is fair chase, what is not. And it's one I love to think about, because if you go back to the bare bones of hunting, we shouldn't be, you know, we should be sharpening our own sticks.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, if we did that, that is, as you said before, the feral populations would be way bigger than what they currently are. And they're pretty big at the moment. So imagine if they had no firearms to just go nuts, we'd be in big trouble, more than probably what we are. But yeah, I love thinking about and having these chats about it. And I do like hearing people's perspectives and different points of view to challenge my own. Because I don't know where I sit. I don't think you can say to someone with a rifle and a scope that you're not traditionally hunting. I don't know if I agree with that, because our skill set as humans is technology. You know, we talk about the senses of animals. Well, we don't have those senses, but what we do have is a brain that is functioning at a higher level to create tools to help us. So is that not all then what I would say is all fair chase, because that's what we have? But then you could argue that, well, you're not the one creating the thermal. So that's not a tool that you've made, you've just purchased it. It's such a tricky, cool subject to think about.
I think too, it comes down, and I look at it as it's a conflict of preference of how people hunt. So, like you said, your bow hunters, they think rifle, like some might throw comments of, oh, rifle's cheating or whatever. And then you go, well, let's look at your compound bow. it's got all those elements. It's not just a piece of wood and a string. So, well, then there's someone that's using a longbow saying that the compound's bow. And I think where you've got so many different aspects and ways to hunt, there's a huge community that hunt in different ways. I think it's more become a debate of preference of what they do and circumstances of how they hunt and personal views of go, well, this is the way I personally hunt and think that it's my ethical way of hunting may differ from somebody else's.
Yeah, I think we also, as humans, are very tribal in nature. And
correct.
It takes a lot for us to get off our tribe. And, you know, we're seeing this right across the world at the moment, you know, and the political atmosphere at the moment is very clear for that too, is that people are still voting their lines, even though, you know, I think fuel's at $3.20, you know, inflation is ridiculous, interest rates are going up, and then there's still people that are supporting in big numbers, like in South Australia, the Labor Party getting back in, when they're in charge of the country at the moment, and things are not looking great for a lot of people. And it's pretty sad at the moment because I've seen so many people talking about having to cancel hunting plans for this upcoming rut, whether it be from a cost perspective because their fuel bill has just gone through the roof, or potentially concerns that so many fuel stations are running dry and that you're getting stuck. I'm seeing so much of that on Instagram, truckies not having fuel and they're just parked up going, well, what do we do? And I can see in having some conversations, I know Croak Camp, quite a few of the boys have pulled the pin because they just can't afford that, you know, couple of $100 extra now to go away. And on top of, because that's what they're paying for their own work, just to transit around the community at the moment. It's pretty crazy. But that tribal nature is just something that I think it's just where it's just ingrained into our DNA. And I think you're exactly right that whatever camp you're in, you are generally, most people are wholeheartedly in on their camp and in on their perspective, and they can't see the other way, or they don't want to, is the other way too. And I get that. Like that's human nature. It is part of it. I try and be a bit more flexible and open and a bit more fluid. You know, I heard a good saying the other day is that it was something like that: passionately have my ideas, but I weakly defend them. So having the ability that when I'm all in, but I don't die on that hill. I'm always open to move on or change my opinion or be taught something new or contradicted to change my beliefs.
Yeah. And I think it's an acceptance of differential. Like in the current climate where there's so many sort of hunting groups that are in threat of losing firearms or whatever, I think it's like the current climate, we need to accept that, there's a heap of different ways to go hunting, and ethically I might not agree with, but we're all in it together. And it's more of an acceptance of go, wow, you know what? Like, he's still on my side or she's still on my side. We're still got that ultimate goal of going out and hunting deer for put it in the freezer, or going out to shoot foxes for the farmer. Regardless of how it gets done, I think ultimately comes down to that we're all on the same team at the moment in this current climate.
Yeah, look, I agree. And I think there's a great saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I relate that to hunting and the hunting styles, that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it's legal and ethical, I'm all for it. And if you want to do it your way, go for it. If it doesn't suit the way I want to do it, that is totally fine with me. And, you know, I talk about it all the time, is I'm sort of as fluid as possible, that I don't want to put any hunting style down, and I see the merits in all of it, even if it's not my cup of tea, and I'll support it because whilst it's not my cup of tea, someone is really passionate about that for a reason. And their love for it, well, if they love it like that, that's the same as me, that they might not view it that way, but hopefully I'd have the support vice versa. And I think that's what we as hunters need to do as well and go, we're all in this together. It's not just, they're not going to ban rifles and let bow hunters stay. They're not going to let bow hunting get banned and then not target rifles down the track. It's that whole cycle, and that the more numbers we have, the more support, the more we engage politically and all these things. It's a million things, because I always say it's the death by 1,000 cuts is what they're aiming for, and we've got to be very, very mindful of it.
100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
All right, mate. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and it's always a tricky time leading into the rut, and people are busy, and it's just a great time of year at the moment for so many different elements and aspects. But mate, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I do love the content. Please keep putting it up. Might have to get your partner on at some stage too, and pick his brain and have a chat to him. So, but Craig, mate, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it, and best of luck on the next trip.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, if you do want to check out the content, it's The Salty Hunters on Instagram, I believe.
Yes.
Perfect. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can check it all out. All right, listeners, bye for now. You've been listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt. Thanks for tuning in, and can't wait to catch you next time. But in the meantime, if you want more, you can find it at linktr.ee/Australian Hunting and Beyond. That will give you our YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, you name it. We'll catch you next time.